I never thought that locking my own ranch gate would somehow be considered a crime. But last night, when I drove home after a long day and discovered my ranch entrance blocked by a massive concrete slab, I knew the battle had begun. HOA Violation 347A small sign stuck on the concrete block stood like a declaration of war. What they didn't realize was that, for me, this wasn't the end. It was just the beginning of a plan I'd been preparing for the past 6 months. 6 months earlier, I was unpacking the last of my boxes in the farmhouse that had belonged to my family for more than 30 years. After my parents passed, I left behind my high-stress career as a corporate attorney in Chicago to take over the family ranch. The 20-acre property was nestled in a picturesque valley with rolling hills and a creek winding through the western edge. It was home, and I was looking forward to finding peace far away from the cutthroat legal world. The first few weeks were blissful. I fixed up fences, cleared out overgrown paths, and reconnected with the land I had loved since childhood. But then, one afternoon, an official-looking envelope arrived. Inside was a letter from something called the Oak River Hills Homeowners Association demanding $750 in annual fees and listing several citations regarding my property's appearance. I stared at it in disbelief. My parents had never once mentioned being part of any HOA, and I was confident their property had always been exempt from such oversight. 3 days later, while I was repairing a barn door, a black Mercedes cruised up my gravel driveway. Out stepped a tall, poised woman in her late 50s dressed in an immaculate navy blue suit. She introduced herself as Claudia Remington, president of the Oak River Hills HOA. "Mr. Barrett?" She began with a syrupy smile that didn't quite reach her eyes. "I thought it was time we met face to face." I shook her manicured hand reluctantly. She spent the next 20 minutes explaining how she had restructured and modernized the HOA after moving into the area, expanding its reach for what she called community integrity. Her tone was courteous, but her gaze sharp and assessing. When she finished, I responded calmly but firmly. "My property has never been under HOA authority. There was no agreement, no vote, and no legal encumbrance attached to the deed. I have no interest in joining." Her smile froze into something harder. "Mr. Barrett, everyone in Oak River Hills is part of our association now. It's what keeps our community beautiful and thriving. I'm sure you don't want to be the neighbor who brings down our property values." Thinly veiled threats weren't new to me. I kept my tone measured. This property has been in my family for generations, and we've managed just fine without HOA oversight. That won't change. As she left, I noticed a black SUV idling down the road, a man inside watching our interaction. He drove off the moment our eyes met. Something told me this wasn't over. That evening, I dug through old documents and found a clause in my father's property deed specifically exempting the land from any future HOA imposition without written consent. It was legal armor, and I smiled, knowing I was ready for what was coming. What followed was a barrage. Daily violation notices began showing up taped to my mailbox, my fence, even the old oak tree out front. They ranged from the ridiculous, grass too tall, to the absurd, unauthorized livestock for horses that had lived there for years. The fines started at $50 per notice, but quickly snowballed to $500 per day for noncompliance. I logged every notice, took time-stamped photos, and began building my own case. It was clear they wanted me gone. Elena, who ran the general store in town, clued me into the broader scheme. They've been doing this to folks one by one, forcing them to sell. Every time, the buyer is connected to Claudia's business partner, Richard Lyman. I reached out to an old law school buddy, Marcus Caldwell, a property rights specialist who relished taking on bullies. He jumped at the chance to help. "They messed with the wrong guy," he chuckled. "Send me everything. We're going to dismantle them one statute at a time." Things escalated when a white SUV with the HOA's logo pulled up outside my property. Claudia stepped out with a security goon named Travis, who barked about violations and snapped photos over my fence. "This land isn't under your jurisdiction," I reminded her. "Every time you or your people set foot on it, you're trespassing." I began recording them with my phone. Travis backed off. Claudia fumed. The next day, my daughter Maya called from college. "Dad and Carol said something's going on with an HOA? Are you okay?" I reassured her. "It's just noise. Nothing I can't handle." But it wasn't just noise. They began surveilling the ranch at night, parking near the edge of my property, sometimes using drones. So I installed a full security system with motion sensors, infrared cameras, and cloud backups. I began catching them on tape, creeping around like amateur spies. Then came the lawsuit. The HOA filed in county court, claiming I was lowering neighborhood standards and threatening the community's well-being. Their attorney was slick, throwing around words like nuisance and non-compliant property. Marcus and I filed a cease and desist with accompanying evidence, my exemption clause, documentation of harassment, and illegal attempts to apply regulations retroactively. It wasn't just unethical, it was illegal. The hearing was a farce. Judge Emery, a longtime friend of Claudia's, barely acknowledged our evidence and issued a preliminary injunction forcing me to comply with HOA rules pending trial. It reeked of corruption. So we dug deeper. Maya's roommate had an uncle at the county clerk's office. Through her, we learned that Richard Lyman had quietly submitted zoning requests and land use changes months earlier. His plans for a luxury golf resort included my property. They needed the creek for water rights. Meanwhile, Marcus discovered LLCs tied to Claudia and Richard paper trails connecting them to shady land acquisitions all over the state. I met with an investigative journalist named Dana Voss. She had heard rumors but needed proof. I handed her everything. This isn't about weeds or mailbox paint, I told her. It's about stealing land. We baited them. Elena leaked word that I was thinking about selling. Predictably, Claudia and Richard jumped. But they didn't come with a check, they came with a plan to destroy me. I caught them on camera, late one night, sneaking onto my land to plant evidence of zoning violations, including hazardous waste barrels and construction debris. Marcus and I shared the footage with Sheriff Lane, a newly elected lawman with no ties to the HOA. He immediately ordered an investigation. Within 48 hours, Claudia, Richard, and Travis were under arrest. Warrants were served. Dana published her expose. It hit the local and state news, then went national. Turns out they had done this in multiple towns, creating shell HOAs, exploiting small communities, and flipping land for massive profits. Judge Emery was suspended pending ethics violations. The injunction against me was dismissed. The HOA was dissolved. Neighbors I barely knew came to my ranch to say thank you. Many had felt powerless for years. A year later, the ranch is thriving. Elena and I started a co-op farmers market that's become the heart of the valley. Maya is heading to law school inspired, she says, by watching you torch those snakes. We turned the old HOA building into a community center. The sign outside reads, Oak River Commons built by us, for us. As for the concrete slab they used to block my gate, we hauled it into the town square and painted it with community murals. Beneath it a plaque reads, where they tried to stop us, we built something stronger. And me? I finally found peace not by walking away from the fight, but by standing my ground. This ranch isn't just land. It's legacy. It's home. And no one, not an HOA, not a developer, not anyone will ever take that from me again.